So I am just leaving the movie theater. My favorite movie theater, that's the Cinema Village. It's 22 East 12th Street. I've been coming here for over 20 years. I've talked about this before. It's my favorite theater, hands down. It's a real theater. I mean, the seats are kind of cramped. I'm a big guy, and it doesn't even matter. I just finished seeing Come As You Are with Gabrielle Sidive. Let me just say, I was hating on her the whole time. Not the whole time, but I was hating on her for the first. It was crazy because the movie, the guys were like, yo, she's really growing on me. And right when they said that, she was growing on me as well. And then I just, fell in love with her and everything like that. And even shed a little tear at the end. It's true, I did it. But I'm sure I did it right on time. But in the beginning, I wasn't feeling her, nor was I feeling the Asian guy that was in the wheelchair. I was like, he's way too attractive. Come on, I wanted to see ugly people get it popping. This Asian guy was way too attractive. And Come As You Are is it's a tale of what are you willing to do to get laid? And let me tell you, I remember me as a kid. And that was I had those, like the horses. I was focused on trying to get the cookie. And these guys, you have these disabled guys. One of them is totally, he can't even lift up a fork or a spoon. He only can move his neck and his head. And the movie opens up with him having like some sort of wet dream. And of course, the wet dream is interrupted by his mother knocking on the door. And what is there? He's like pitching a tent. And, so the mom, she's been dealing with this guy. He's 24 years old. Every morning he wakes up like that. So it's not a big deal. And he's like, can you give me a minute? And she's like, no, we don't have time for that. Which would be some sort of gyrating to climactic situations. Because he can't even masturbate using hands. He has some sort of degenerative nerve, joint, degradative, I don't know. But it opens up with this guy having a wet dream and his mother giving him a bath, and the whole time she's just yap, 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 yap. And it's obvious that her whole life is wrapped around him and his whole life is wrapped around her, taking care of him. In the process, he's way past puberty, right? And he's out of his mind looking to relieve that stress, and it's so normal. And he's at some sort of recovery center that he goes to, probably for physical therapy and the likes of that. They didn't make it too clear. And in this place, he has this like little rivalry going on with one of the administrative workers it seems like everyone that works in the hospital is some sort of disabled. There are people that are, there's a woman there, she has like, her arm she has like only the shoulder and a part here, and then there's like 5 little fingers, like little tiny balls that would be like little fingers. And then the other person that's sitting next to her, and this is an administrative capacity at the place, is this guy who's also starred in the movie. And this guy, he's blind, and he's a 35-year-old man, blind, of course, living with his mom. And then we have the jock, the attractive, handsome Asian guy who it opens up with us not really knowing anything about him. But one thing about this movie, he kept the most tackiest chair. Like, he had a chair that they give you, like when they're rolling you out of the hospital, they had this chair that they roll you out. Like, when you go to the hospital, they're like, you can't walk out of here. We're gonna have to put you in a wheelchair and take you out of the building this way. And he was like in one of those kind of chairs. So it was just like cumbersome kind of a chair. It really bothered me in the beginning, but it was clear that as you learn more about this character, that he was not truly into that chair. So for him to get a nice one wasn't his style, because he never really acclimated to that life, you know. And the objective is, so the guy's, the main character, I saw his last name was like Meyerberg, something Meyersberg. I didn't really get into that, but he played such a great role. I mean, he did so good, so believable. The way his hand was curved, and that's the only thing he could do is just like move the hand, maybe the finger back and forth. And it was just an amazing sight to see this guy in this chair, and he was on point every single time. There was a couple of little comedic moments. Ooh, I have to sneeze. There was a couple little comedic moments that I feel his timing was a little off, but I'm a little under the weather. I think that's that Corona light going around. I don't got the Corona. I got the Corona light. No, I'm teasing. Which maybe somebody might feel that was pretty tacky. So I apologize to whoever was triggered just now by my cynicism and sarcasm and all this kind of silly stuff. So we have three people. We have the Asian jock that's in a wheelchair that he has not acclimated to. It seems like it's a fairly new situation being in this chair. It's not, doesn't appear to be something he's been in the chair very long. And then we have the gentleman who's been in his chair the whole life, who opened up the movie with the wet dream. And then we have the administrative guy who's 35 years old and blind. And what we're dealing with, what appears to be all virgins. And I remember that time in my life when I was a virgin, and I remember there wasn't anything that I wouldn't do to try to get something. Like, I was just so, like, I understood where they were coming from. Every virgin could get where these guys are coming from. Here's the thing, though. I was 14, 15 years old, going out of my mind as a virgin, when these are like 20-year-olds, 25 and 35-year-olds that are, you know, that's like, they're going crazy. So they developed this plan, and the plan is to get out of the house, rent the vehicle. The vehicle will then take them to this brothel, because the guy was at a baseball game for like special needs or something like that. I don't know the real terms, where it was like a softball game and everybody was in a wheelchair. And this one guy, he like hits the baseball, he does like a home run, he comes around the bases, he's swinging around, and he has like the cutest little 22-year-old, she was looking like a thought in a bimbo, and he was looking like he was my age, in a wheelchair, overweight, and probably giving her an allowance. But with that being said, he tells the guy in the wheelchair, the main character, he says to him, which he caught him, gawking at his girlfriend. He's like, "Hey, what are you looking at?" He's, "I'm sorry, but she's beautiful. How do you do this? Like, you're a lucky man." So he hands him a card, which he couldn't really hand him, but he was able to look at the card, memorize the numbers, and he checked it out on the internet, and the internet was letting him know that, listen, this is a place, there's a brothel in Montreal, Canada, that is looking for you, that caters to you and your needs and things like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. And they developed a plan to get out of there, man, and they wanted to do it without telling their parents. The jock, who's the Asian guy, he decides to tell his parents, "I'm going to go on a road trip with my friends that I just met." And they're like, "No, Absolutely not. And I thought it was kind of strange how dedicated they were to finding him once they finally were able to escape. I thought it was a little like, what's going on? The overprotectiveness didn't make a lot of sense to me. And there was this scene where they show him reaching into a pill bottle and taking a pill and washing it down with some water. And I thought that was like not a big deal. You know, people in wheelchairs, they might have to pop a pill or two. And we're introduced to this character right before they leave for the trip, which is Gabrielle Silve. Now I'm saying her name right, I believe so. And of course, typical attitude-y black woman, didn't say hello, wasn't nice, reached and grabbed their bags, threw their bags in the car and was like, come on, let's go. With total no regard for anybody's feelings. It was so stereotypical of that role, that black girl, attitude, lips poked out, crossing their arms, and it was just like, I've seen it. I'm so over that role, and I was hating. I was just like, once again, we're gonna have to have her with a pouty mouth and a turned up lip and an attitude. So, but like I said in the beginning, her character grew on me, and it was purposefully done. See, this is the thing that bothers me a little bit. It's purposefully done. It's like they purposefully want to put black women in such a mean role, and then as you get to know them, then they become nice. And the truth of the matter is, that's such a small percentage of black women. The percentage of black women that have their lips poked out and they got an attitude, and then after you get to know them, they're like the coolest chick in the world. That's like 2% of the population, because a lot of women, when they have their mouth like that and they have an attitude, they're not cool to hang out with. When you get to know them, you say to yourself, I see why she's alone. I see why this person is not with any friends. So I am so over these directors and the writing and putting in black women to be this angry person from the beginning. Yes, I got to like her. Yes, she grew on me. And yes, but they wrote it that way. She's a freaking phenomenal actress or actor. She is going to be able to make the adjustments according to the screenplay. But Jesus, Mary and Joseph, why do we have to continue to have black women start off with their mouth poked out? So it's a little annoying. I digress. But we meet her character. She gets them into the bus. She gets them into the van. It's like a 40 Econoline van that has wheelchair accessibility. And she's working as she's a driver because she had some incident with her husband, one in which she admits to shooting him in the buttocks with insulin as he was participating in some sort of sex act with the neighbor, which trickled down to her losing her medical license, or suspended her medical license because she's a nurse, and landed her with that gig of driving this van, and that's very, very believable, because one thing I know about these vans is that whenever you need a ride, I remember there was a guy, I went to some auction and the guy was like, yo, you should get this van. And I was like, yeah, but then I'm going to have to take out all the wheelchair accessible stuff. And I'm like, no way. And the guy was like, no, you keep that because you could just do great adventure runs. It's $250 per person in a wheelchair. And look, you can get like 4 people in a wheelchair. That could be your weekend money. And I was like, oh, okay. But I was totally not interested in that, nor am I interested in that. But I know that this is very realistic for her character to be in this position and work this gig. Makes sense. So, what did I forget to do in the very beginning of all my videos? Here we go. Boom. Here we go. Bam. Come As You Are. Cinema Village, my favorite movie theater. $12. Not bad. Alright. See, there are no rules to this YouTube stuff. I don't have any, I don't have a crew here. No, I'm not a cab. This lady thinks I'm a cab right here. I'm sorry. You're looking for the Toyota Highlander. This is the Hyundai Santa Fe. But anyway, it'd be foolish to try to do this vehicle as a cab. So now, there was a scene where they panicked because the morning that they left at 5 in the morning, or maybe let's say 6 a.m., their parents didn't get up, and when their parents got up, they saw that their children were gone, and they're like freaked out and panicked, and now they're looking for their kids, and they're now calling the cell phone of their children, and after calling the cell phone of their children, they let me move out this way. After they moved out, I feel like I have to sneeze again. No, okay, I'm good. They had this panicking freak out moment where they were like, throw your cell phones out. They can track our cell phones. They can track our cell phones. So the two guys in the wheelchair throw their cell phones out the car window. And then the one guy, the blind guy, he like takes his SIM card, throws his SIM card out. And they're like, what did you just do? And he's like, I'm not throwing out my phone. This is a brand new phone. So that was like one or two references to cell phones that was very realistic for the times. And I liked it. The other one was when the brother, the jock, he enlisted the help of his sister to get supplies and things like that. And doing this, he wound up. So the parents confront the sister, which she's like 12 years old, 13 years old. And they're like, you better tell us where your brother's at. You better tell us what's going on. We know you know more than you're saying. And they're like just berating her and browbeating her. And they're trying to get to the bottom of where their son is. And they're like totally out of their mind, freaking out. And they threaten to punish her for a month. We're taking away all your American Girl dolls. And then the mother says on the phone, I don't know. And they say to her, they were like, we're going to take away your cell phone. Oh, that broke her. Totally broke her. I had to put my phone down because I had a police officer riding so close to me. And I don't want any smoke. There's a lot going on. A lot of people are trying to make quotas. I don't have time for that, They're like, you can't use any electronic device in any way, shape, or form while driving. So that was a good scene. The cell phone scene in the car and the cell phone scene with the sister breaking under the pressure of having to lose her cell phone. She just told everything about her brother, where he was, what he was doing. Well, the little that she knew, he didn't reveal everything for her. And the parents were like on a tirade to find their kids. It was like kind of like disturbing to me. I started to like maybe not like the movie at that point, but then you start to understand a little more about what's really going on here. And the parents first try to get to the children and was not successful because they realized that there was some sort of email that was sent out, so they knew their parents were going to track them to the email, knew their itinerary, because they had an itinerary. These are people that just didn't just, they hired or they chartered a ride. And in doing so, they chartered hotels to stay, and they traveled from, at least 6 states to get to Montreal. And they're traveling from the U.S. And I think one of the first states was Nebraska, and, they're just going north up to Chicago, and they're making it all the way to Montreal. And what was interesting was that, and this scene I didn't like either. I told you in the beginning I was hating on Gabrielle Sidive's character because out of nowhere she just became lightheaded and collapsed and fainted in the hotel room. Didn't look very realistic. She had some sort of insulin, diabetic issues. Whatever the issues were, I was too much in my head going, how do you do that? I'm not from the island, so I don't do it too well. I wasn't feeling it. I was like, come on. This don't even look realistic. This is a jip. What the hell's wrong with this lady? So she leaves, and in the process, they realize that they have to get out of Dodge. They're like, yo, our parents are going to find this email, and they're going to come looking for us, and we need to get out of this situation. So it was funny because now we got the blind guy driving the car. We have the jock who is kind of steering him, and then we have the other guy who can't even move anything but his mouth, and his mouth is reckless. I mean, he has a silver tongue that is like a whip, and he's just very, very angry. You know, you sit in the chair your whole life. You know, depending on your mother who won't stop talking, it's going to be a very stressful life. And he did a great job doing that, as far as, like, you know, pushing that narrative and like acting his ass off. So it was a good scene, them in the car, the recklessness and just the willpower to not want to have someone stop you from getting that cookie. You will get a blind man to drive. A blind man will get in the car and drive for that cookie. And I know it's real. Trust me, I know it is real. The thirst is real. And it was hilarious. You know, the van wound up getting stuck in a ditch. No one got hurt. And then the scene with the police officer riding up next to them. And they're like under wheelchairs. And they're like trying to pay the officer no mind. And the officer's like, you guys all right? And then the officer makes a call. And he's like, yeah, I have some disabled people. And they were like correcting him. No, he's like, I have handicapped people. And they're like, no, we're disabled. And then, you know, so they were like using all these and throughout the movie, there was a bunch of politically correct kind of situations that some of the timing was a little off with the acting, but it was good. The writing was good. And also, I will say this, the lighting to the movie sucked. I'm not gonna lie. The scene where the jock strapped up his gloves and started to, like, you know, hit the bag, that room was way too dark. And a lot of the room scenes where the main characters the scenes were dark for no reason. I was just like, who's lighting this damn movie? It was really, to me, the lighting was done. It could have been done 10 times better. I give it definitely a fail on the lighting, a total fail. This movie could have been lit so much better. And there was a scene where there was a drone shot, and the drone shot didn't even have a freaking 3-axis gimbal. It's like the drone was shaky in the air, and they didn't even edit it better. They could have edited better. You know, with those little tiny things that just make you go, you know, like, what's the budget like for this movie? This is like, you know, they did this for $450,000 or something? Come on, what's going on here? Whatever, but if that. So now, Gabrielle's character, she, you know, she gets back, she meets up with the guys, they get back together, and they back on the road trip. And then it was kind of funny how she just like gave them ultimatums, like, you're gonna tell me what's going on, because she was under the impression that they were on like a suicide run, like these 3 guys are gonna go commit suicide. And then that's when the blind guy takes a moment and he talks with her and he says, listen, we're going to a brothel. And once she knew that it was about that cookie, then she didn't have a problem. She was like, oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. So, you know, that was kind of cool. Her character started to warm up, and I don't know where, there was a scene where they went out to dinner, and she had on like dinner attire, and her character would never have traveled with that dress, never would have traveled with that. She had like some sort of duster, She was wearing some sort of duster and some over the dress, and the dress was above the knee. Her character would have never done that. So it was just like, why would they have her dress? It was just weird, because what they were trying to do is push the narrative between her and the blind guy. And I kind of saw that, and I was just like, all right, let me be open-minded. Let me see if the director can push this idea without forcing this on me. And he did. The director did good. The freaking, the chemistry between her and the blind guy worked well, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing that, because let me tell you, man, 4 days in a car with someone, there's an energy, there's a what's the word I'm looking for, there's this thing, there's this nuance of connection that can happen really, really quickly. So the director was able to allow these two characters that I was afraid was going to be pushed on me to not be, and to really do well. And there was a scene where the parents finally caught up to them, because you have to have some sort of fear going on for the characters. These characters just can't they just can't charter a ride and there's no problems. So despite the fact that their comedic timing was a little off on a few scenes, the movie definitely was realistic, and their parents' journey to find their children and confront their children. And then finally they did, and what happened was this huge blow up where the jock flipped out on everyone, including his parents, and it was really a great scene. Spot on scene. It was about it was really good. I recommend that. Let me also say, I do recommend the movie. I like the movie. I dropped a tier for the movie, so if I drop in a tier for a movie, it's worth the $12, or it's worth checking it out on whatever platform you have. I would suggest this is something that you look for, and you watch it with someone that you care about. You can even watch it with your friends, or whatever the case is. It's a good movie. So I'm not going to take too much time, but and I don't really want to necessarily give away the part that made my eyes water, and where the tear dropped. And it was more than one tear dropped. It was like a stream that went down, and I grabbed my scarf and I wiped it like that. It was good. Those scenes were good. So despite the fact that there was some lighting issues and there was some timing issues with the comedic stuff, there was still about 5 really incredible moments that the movie had. Some really good scenes. And I don't want to take you to the last page of the book. I would like you to check the movie out and know that it's very unexpected what does happen. And then the movie turns into where, when you make a promise to someone and then you keep that promise. It was like one of those kind of situations, and I like that. You say you're going to do something, do it. And it was about friendship. And it was about the journey to the cookie. And that journey to the cookie is never paved in gold. It's never simple. And even when you get the cookie, was it exactly what you were wishing for? And there was a couple of jewels that were dropped where, Gabrielle's character, she was just like, just don't plan anything, just go with the flow. So, they make it to the brothel, and there were just some changes that happened, some turn of events that happened, that led up to the part where I got emotional, where it was done really well. So I do recommend this. I give this movie, I give it 2 thumbs up. I'll give it 3.5 out of 5 stars, and I give it a 7, maybe 6.5 out of 10. And that's because of the lighting. Maybe I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. All right, 6.5 out of 10, and that's because of the lighting. The lighting sucked. The drone shaking didn't, that scene, that overhead scene, man. You could get better overhead scenes with people that are doing YouTube channels. Come on, I don't want to see cinematic gimbal shaking. I don't want to. No, I don't want that. So that's why I get to 6.5 out of 10 stars. So hit me up if you want to know more. I'm not going to spoil the ending. It's good enough not to. It seems like the movies that I hate, I tell you the whole thing. But when I like the movie, I let you check it out yourself. So thank you very much for tuning in. Come as you are. Boom. Thank you.